It was a quiet Saturday afternoon when my neighbor, Mr. Anderson, knocked on our front door. My family had lived in this neighborhood for years, but we never really interacted much with him. He was a tall, reserved man in his 60s with silver-streaked hair and a quiet demeanor. Most days, he could be seen tending to his garden, watering the roses that lined his white picket fence. I always thought he was just a solitary man who preferred his own company. That day, however, something felt different. His knock was firm but hesitant, as if he wasn't sure whether he should be there. When I opened the door, he stood there holding a small box wrapped in faded brown paper. His deep-set eyes held a mixture of unease and urgency. "Good afternoon, Jason," he said, his voice low and steady. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." "Not at all, Mr. Anderson," I replied, stepping aside. "Would you like to come in?" He hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Yes, thank you. I actually have something important to share with you." I led him into the living room, where my mom and dad sat watching television. They looked surprised to see him. After all, in the years we had lived here, he had never once stepped foot inside our house. "Mr. Anderson, please have a seat," my mom said, motioning to the couch. "Can I get you some tea or coffee?" He waved a hand. No, thank you. I won't be staying long." He placed the small box on the coffee table in front of us and took a deep breath. "I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you years ago." A chill crept down my spine. My parents exchanged glances, equally puzzled by his behavior. "What is it?" my dad asked. Mr. Anderson ran a hand through his hair and exhaled slowly. This house, has a history. And I've been keeping a secret about it for a very long time." The air in the room shifted, suddenly thick with tension. I leaned forward, my heartbeat quickening. "What kind of secret?" my mom asked carefully. He tapped the top of the box. "It's all in here, but I should start from the beginning." My family listened in stunned silence as he began to tell us a story, one that would change everything we thought we knew about our home. "Years ago," he began, "long before your family moved in, there was another family who lived here. The Parkers. They were good people. A husband, wife, and their teenage daughter, Emily. I was close to them, especially Emily. She was like a granddaughter to me. She used to sit on my porch and tell me about school, her friends, her dreams. But then one night everything changed." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "What happened?" Mr. Anderson's eyes darkened. "Emily disappeared. Just like that. One evening, she left for a friend's house, but she never came home. The police searched everywhere, but there was no sign of her. Her parents were devastated. Weeks turned into months, then years. Eventually, the Parkers moved away, unable to bear the pain of living in a house filled with memories of their missing daughter." A heavy silence fell over the room. My mother reached for my father's hand, squeezing it tightly. "That's awful," she murmured. "It was," Mr. Anderson agreed. "But that's not the end of the story. A few years after they left, something strange happened. One night, I was sitting on my porch when I saw a light in one of the upstairs windows, Emily's old room. But the house was empty. No one had lived there for years. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but then I started hearing noises, whispers, footsteps. Goosebumps prickled my skin. "You think it was Emily?" He hesitated before answering. "I don't know. But I did some research, talked to people who had lived in this neighborhood before me. And I found something I never had the courage to share until now." He reached for the box and carefully unwrapped it. Inside were old photographs, newspaper clippings, and a small, leather-bound journal. He picked up one of the newspaper clippings and handed it to my dad. "This is from the night Emily went missing. But look at the date of this journal entry." He opened the journal to a page with faded ink and pointed. "This entry was written 2 years after she disappeared. And it's in her handwriting." My dad frowned. "That's impossible. If she was missing, how could she have written this?" "That's what I've been trying to figure out for years," Mr. Anderson said. "I believe she was still here, trapped in some way. Maybe someone took her. Maybe she couldn't leave. But I think the answers are inside this house." My mother shuddered. You're saying we might be living in the same place where something terrible happened to that girl? I don't know for sure, he admitted. But there's more. I once found a note on my porch, written in the same handwriting as Emily's journal. It simply said, "I'm still here." No explanation. No signature. Just those 3 words. I felt a lump form in my throat. And you think she left it? I do. And I think she needs help. A deep silence settled over the room. My parents didn't know what to say, and neither did I. The idea that our house held secrets we never knew about, that someone could have been calling out for help all these years, it was overwhelming. Mr. Anderson sighed and stood up. I don't expect you to believe me, but I couldn't keep this to myself any longer. I just thought you should know. He left the box on the table and walked to the door. Before stepping outside, he turned back. If you ever notice anything strange, lights flickering, sounds at night, please don't ignore it. It might be Emily trying to reach out. With that, he was gone. My parents and I sat there in silence for a long time. Eventually, my dad picked up the journal and started reading. My mom studied the old photographs, and I found myself staring at the newspaper clippings, trying to make sense of everything. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was watching. And for the first time since moving in, I wondered what really happened inside these walls before we called this house our home.